I answer you next.
Hmm?
No, I want to send the link to someone.
Okay, now we are live on Facebook. Those who are watching, we're going to be officially live at 9:05 p.m. Now I'm going to share you. I allow multiple sharing, so you'll be sharing. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I'm going to. Pat, can you tell me?
Yeah, it's on.
You okay? You can see it?
Yep.
All right.
But no sound.
Sorry?
No sound.
No sound.
Did you click share sound when you share?
Wait, I'm still learning. Oh my
At the
God.
bottom left corner, before you share the video, before you click the share screen, there's a share computer sound.
Yeah. And oh my God. Share sound. Okay.
About building a more just.
Can you hear now?
Okay. Yes.
This is the subject of
Yes.
modern Catholic social
Okay,
teaching.
it is coming.
A
All
teaching which has been spelled out in a number of official church documents.
You got one screen or
popes,
two screens
ecumenical
there in your place?
councils, and synods of bishops
You have
in
a
various
second
countries
screen,
around the world.
Hello.
Second screen.
There are 7 major
Hello, Eddie.
themes that occur over and over again.
Is that okay?
in
Can you
these
see
church
everything,
teaching
Eddie?
documents.
Yeah.
But before
Okay,
we can
good.
examine them, we need to briefly define
Your Facebook is not on yet.
important
Sorry?
concepts.
Your Facebook is
First of
not
these
on yet.
concepts is justice.
Yeah,
The
Facebook is
Catholic
not on yet.
understanding of justice has
No,
always
yeah.
that there are at least
It starts
at
9, Eddie.
Share it on
First,
on my
commutative justice
Facebook as
is
well
the
as
first thing most
our
of us
feeds.
think about when we hear or read that word.
Wait.
It means
Who is
fairness
talking,
and balance in the sense that everyone is treated more or less the
He's
same.
playing a video,
If someone
Eddie.
hires you to work
Oh.
for $25
Yeah,
an
but it's-
hour and you work 4 hours for them,
You are
then you
coming
must
in
be
from
paid
Facebook.
$100.
You're not on Zoom.
There is a balance here. Your
I'm coming
employer
in from
receives what he
Zoom, yeah.
deserves, 4
Then you
hours
should
of
be
your
able to
labor,
see the video.
and you get
Yeah,
what
I'm
you
seeing the
deserve,
video, yes.
$100. Here's another example. It's Thanksgiving Day, and your entire family is seated around the table. Grandma carves the turkey and is careful to make sure that everyone gets exactly the same amount of white and dark meat, and she weighs and doles out the vegetables and dessert the very same way. Everyone gets exactly the same amount of food, and no one can complain that they got cheated. Commutative justice.
Wait.
But that's not how we share Thanksgiving dinner and other meals, is it? Grandma doesn't give her 5-year-old granddaughter the same amount of food as her 19-year-old grandson. No, the food is distributed according to need. The bigger people and those who have bigger appetites get more, maybe even seconds. Everyone at the meal is happy, even though they all don't get the same amount. This is the second form of justice, known as distributive justice. Resources, in this case the food, are distributed to each person according to their need. In order to do and be well, some need more and some need less. This is a different kind of balance, but it too is totally fair. As much as possible, everyone's needs are met. The third form of justice is a bit different. It's called social justice, and it is achieved by asking questions about the fairness of our society's institutions, our legal and political systems, our economic, financial, and educational institutions, and all the rest. Are these institutions and our society as a whole respecting the dignity of every person, and are they meeting the needs of all according to both commutative and distributive justice? If not, how can we change those institutions so they better serve the needs of all and the common good as well? It is often said that there are 2 ways to achieve justice, that is, to make sure everyone's needs are met, and they are commonly called
in the
the
group.
2 feet of justice.
Pat?
The first foot is charity.
I've already shared in the
Someone
group the
has
link.
no food and is going
Okay.
Facebook
hungry,
link.
so you and your friends generously take up a collection and give them something to eat, like Jesus feeding the 5,000. The traditional list of corporal and spiritual works of mercy comes to mind here. The second foot of justice is the already mentioned social justice. We work together to discover why people are hungry, and we try to fix that. We make the kind of changes needed. For example, workers and their families might be going hungry because even though they work full time, they do not earn enough to pay for housing, transportation, medical care, and food.
I
So
don't
we work to increase the minimum wage so that everyone who
I don't
works
see
full
on
time
your what?
makes enough to
On
meet their
your
needs,
Facebook, on
including
Boon
food.
Talk Show.
So the first, charity, is short term.
I give you the link
The
just now.
people who
Can you
lack
check?
food get fed for a day or two.
It's in.
But the
He just
second,
sent the new
social
link. You have
justice,
to use
is
the new
long
link,
term.
Eddie.
We try to make
Oh,
changes that
new
will
link.
eliminate hunger
There's
in the
a new
long
link.
In the
run,
group.
so
In the
people
group.
no longer
Check.
need charity.
Oh, okay.
Of course, charity makes us feel good. We're the good
Zoom,
people. who
join
feel
Zoom
good.
meeting link.
And few
Oh,
people will
No,
criticize
not
us.
This
the
one,
Zoom
yeah,
meeting,
yeah,
the
I saw it.
FB.
But working for social justice can
Okay.
be both difficult and controversial and may take a lot of time and effort. And it usually means getting
Okay.
involved in politics. Think, for example, of Martin Luther King Jr. A second consideration before going further is the concept of human rights. We often speak of rights, the Bill of Rights, the right to life, and so forth. Well, what exactly is a right? Going all the way back to the ancient Greeks, to the time of Aristotle, a right has been defined as whatever is needed for a person to subsist in a truly human fashion. What does every person need in order to live in a way befitting a human being, in order to live a decent, dignified life? Human needs include not only food, shelter, clothing, and health care, but also respect and acceptance and a sense of belonging. That's the traditional definition of a human right, which the Catholic Church accepts and uses in her teaching. Every person has a need, and thus a right, to food, clothing, health care, and shelter, and in our society that means they have a right to the means to achieve those goods. In order to live and thrive in our modern technological society, a good education leading to a secure job that pays a living wage are required. So human rights are connected to human needs. The third and final consideration before we begin has to do with the question of the common good. Much of Catholic social teaching suggests that we all should be concerned with contributing to the common good. But what does that mean? The common good refers to that which benefits society as a whole, in contrast to the private good of individuals and sections of society. Keep this in mind. You may never directly personally benefit from whatever is in the common good, only indirectly. For example, even though you hope you will never need their services and probably never will, paying taxes to fund your city's fire department and police department is in the common good. What they do for public safety is, in the long run, in our collective best interest. We all benefit, if not directly, then at least indirectly, with lower rates for fire insurance, for example. The same can be said for building ramps to give physically handicapped people access to public places. Even though you personally may never use such a ramp, it is in all of our best interest that people with physical limitations be able to fully participate in and contribute to life in our communities. So when we talk about the common good, we are asking about what benefits society as a whole in contrast to the private good of individuals and sections of society. We put our common interests ahead of our own private interests. So, with these concepts in hand, commutative, distributive, and social justice, human rights, and the common good, we now turn our attention to the 7 major themes of Catholic social teaching.
All right, thank you guys. That will be the first part for a little bit of introduction for Catholic social teaching. Now I'm going to play this, basically the second part. This is basically of our intro. Let me. The session will be officially started at 9:05.
9:05.
Right. For now, we just basically see.
Let people sign in.
Yeah. Let people sign in, a preview of the speakers.
Okay.
when they did their session on the 6th of February, I took a snapshot of their video plus their presentation for tonight. At least you guys have a little bit of preview.
There's a bit of a lag time on the...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, can you see the video?
Yeah, I can see.
Can you hear the sound?
Can.
Can.
Because I believe that because I believe that, you see, if you talk about a common thing, each one of us care about humanity, human, okay, and each one of us, one way or another, whatever faith we are in, we are humans. We care for humans because without human, there's no religion. So I think, well, the caring for the human, is basically being human. That's why religions, including secular humanism, is talking about taking care of human. That is the common trend that I see. That means that we cannot. I mean, at the end of the day, humanism is also secular humanism is also should be included in that sense, because at the end, we are caring for human. We are all humans. We need to start from there actually. At the end, that should be our base. What do humans need? Okay, then different faith will comes in to meet different needs according to the humans. We will draw. It's just like we attract to different people. It's the same thing. We attract to different religions. But at the end of the day, it's the human. Okay, the humanity that is in us that is the most important.
So I'm talking about the common good, that the common good is defined as everything in creation, man, plants, animal. That is the common good, and if we have that, if we think about that, we are on the right track. And I think we can see that in all the faith traditions. There is an element of uh, uh, we are God's creation, and there was a question on the FB that Sharul, you said we maybe not answer, but I would like to touch on it. Someone said, if there are so many faiths, are all of them true? Or if how can they all be true? And I think we need to be very clear that religion is actually created by man. Yes or not? Because God, of course, is there. But man, in his understanding of who God is, came up with religion. And that's why we have so many different faiths, because we are limited beings. We are not divine. We may have some element of God in us because we are his creation, but we are not the same as God. So, in our limited being, all of us see God in a different way, and that's why we have different religions. We are limited in our where we were born, how we were brought up, what culture we grew up in, who taught us about God.
Okay, hi everyone. We are right on time. Now it's 9:05. You guys okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now we are officially starting. Baik, salam sejahtera. Thank you for coming, my dear panelists. Patricia, how are you today? It's a long day for you, I know. You have
Yeah.
like
Today,
one
this
whole
is like
day
my
until night.
second day, second win.
Second win. All right. And how are you, Eddie, today?
So far, so good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming to my show. It is basically it's a continuation from our last World Interfaith Harmony week, where we had its religions or belief. We also have humanists with us. those who are watching on FB Live, thank you very much for watching. Probably you guys can, probably start commenting or asking question, but probably the really Q&A will be on the second part. The first part is basically, I want to get to know better Pat and Eddie. It's more on the superficial level, but when we have like 8 people, we don't really have time to talk to each other, getting to know each other. And to me, that's very important. Okay. Okay, those who are watching, thank you for watching. I'm a little bit nervous, Pat.
Oh.
I'm a little bit nervous because, Aloysius, Alice, and those your friend, Angeli.
I can't see who's watching actually because I will have to switch to FB to see who's watching. Yeah.
Yeah, please also watch on the FB. So I need some help as well. I cannot be listening.
How to look at the FB?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I also don't know.
Sorry?
To find
You said this video has...
Found it.
Okay, you found it. Okay. Just check on the comments because my session is very casual. We also very interactive with the audience on the outside on the FB Live. Okay, Eddie?
Oh, ada salam sudah masuk lah.
Yeah. All right. So, okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Boon 90. That's basically Boon is my nickname in school. Basically, or Buntong. That's all my commercial name. My real name is Sarul Nizam. I'm from Perak. Okay. Like I said, this is the first part of 8-part series that we're going to dip into each belief and religion or belief and religion. Every 2 weeks, I think on my left-hand side corner, my screen, you can see all the tentative timetable. Another 2 weeks, we have Baha'i, then Humanism at 3 p.m., Sikhism, and Buddhism on the 24th April, that basically Ramadan, so I put it at 3 p.m. and until Raya time. So you're going to have all the slot every 2 weeks. So you can always, Ahmad Garafi, this is my friend, is watching. Okay, for those on FB, you have basically 20 seconds delay with people on the Zoom, they have that delay. Okay. So why I do it online? Actually, I'm quite happy to talk to Eddie and Pat. The problem is, especially for my own kind, to me, fighting in the name of religion to me is non-starter. Okay, Eddie? It's non-starter. All religion are supposed to preaching for being kind, stuff like that. So when we have problem among the religious people or due to religion, to me, it's non-starter. It shouldn't be that way. But why I'm doing online is just that, I want other people who are not used to interface. I've told Pat, between us, among us, we will not be fighting. We're all okay. But I want to inspire other people, especially my own kind, for them to be able to see that even though we have different on belief and whatnot, but we can still talk as human, Eddie, yeah? Okay, Eddie. So that's basically one of the main points. So again, there'll be 3 parts series. Okay, I just want to show a little bit of, especially for the Muslim side, because they are, can you share, can you see this one? Pat, my screen?
Your shared screen, not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Oh, sorry. My shared screen.
No.
Okay. I have to share my screen first. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes. So
this is basically, I think Mahathir mentioned last time, he said, basically this is from Quran, chapter 49, verses 13. Basically, he said, Ya ayyuhallazi, ya ayyuhannas, basically, oh humanity, all mankind. Inna khalaqnakum min zakarin wa unsa. Basically, I've created you from a male and female. I think this is basically the same as Christianity, right? We believe from Adam and Eve. And we make you into peoples and tribes. So now we have like Pat, I think, from Portuguese and Dutch and Asian. We got Eddie from Chinese and Malay. For us to get to know each other, not for us to fight each other. And li ta'arafu basically ta'aruf or kenal. We getting to know each other. Inna akramakum, and surely the most noble among you in the Allah, in the sight of Allah is basically Lord. Atqakum is basically the most righteous, or kalau biasa dengar, even kalau macam puasa pun, the main objective of puasa, kitabun al-musyam, la'alakum tatakun. Basically, untuk menjadi takwa, is always going to that takwa or the righteousness, for you to and what is righteousness, what is taqwa is innallaha alimun khabir. Only God knows who's righteous. No, I cannot be say that I'm right, you're wrong, Pat or Eddie. No one can tell that. So basically, we are created different for us to know each other. You know? Not for us to fight each other. You know, we are made different. Like Angeline and Pat also have shared why we are being different. Like, you know, like orchestra, so people can play to our tune for. You know? So we can make a good,
you know, music.
Good music. That's basically, you know, for us to know each other, not to fight each other. Yeah. Know each other. To me, that is basically the baseline. And yeah, agreed people from different religions shall be able to engage and try to understand. Again and again, I want a healthy discussion, you know, that we can talk freely. You know, we can talk hard, but fair and respectful. So those can ask, but you have to be respectful. You know, be fair. Not you ask just to mock other people or other beliefs. To me, that's not the way going forward. But now we're going to have one more thing, because I saw somebody. That's basically, you know, for us to know each other. Not there is a loop. Sorry. No, that's not the way going forward. But now we're going to have why I have a loop. One more thing, because I saw somebody. That's basically, you know, for us to know each other. Not there is a loop. Wait, we have some technical problem.
No, I think because
my Facebook is on, so I turn it off already.
Okay,
yeah,
okay. So
you have to off the volume of your Facebook.
Yeah, just off the volume, but just see the comments. Okay. Another thing I just want to add into that. I mean, there is this article from my neighbor. She said, if I were to be born again, I want to be born as a man. You know. Because it seems that man is you know,
they have a better deal, is it?
Yeah, something a better deal. No, to me, that's why. To me, there is that underlying, you know, that subtle message in that. What I see, it's, you know, of course, men got all the privilege. No, there's always in front. You know, but like Spider-Man says, no, you know, every
great
strength or great comes with great responsibilities.
Great privilege comes great responsibility.
Something like that. You know, for not for you to you know, to oppress the orang yang lemah, tapi basically for you to take care, even in Islam. So we have that. Okay, I think that's too long of my own introduction. So basically, I just want to know more about Eddie. I think the rest of us also want to know more about Eddie and Pat. So probably ladies first. Pat, can you tell me a bit about yourself?
Okay, I'm from Malacca.
Yeah.
From my family name, you might guess that I am Portuguese, but actually the Portuguese spelling would be NUNES for my name. But now in Malaysia, you never will see NUNES, you will see NUNIS, which is actually changed by the British when they came to Malaysia. So when they came, all the Portuguese and Dutch names, they converted to English sounding names. You know, because the Portuguese spelling would have the thunder, the accents, you know, like the old Malay. So all that was changed. So we are also a product of colonization in a sense. Yeah. The cultures that initially came to Malaysia sudah campur aduk banyak. Yeah. And because when the colonials came, they only came men. What? They never brought their women in the 1915, 11 and all that. So most of us, if you look at us, we look Asian, but we have, you know, Western sounding names. So I always tease my own family, you know, how do you know what is in your gene pool? You know, so many 100 years ago, our ancestors came and they settled here. I know for a fact that in my family we have Indian, Asli, maybe some Chinese blood. So in fact, when I count, I think we have 6 ethnicities in my family. You know.
I thought you have a little bit of Dutch as well.
Yes, on my mother's side, Dutch.
Your mother's side, but no British, huh? That's why the British are so angry with you.
Yeah, actually no British, but there are some Eurasians, mostly those in Penang, who have British blood. because Penang was settled more by the Francis Light and all that, Penang. In Malacca, we had the Dutch and the Portuguese earlier. So even though the British came, the influence of the Dutch and the Portuguese was quite strong. So that was where I began. And so when I went to school, I was like one among two, or maybe the only Eurasian in the class. So even from my younger days, I knew I was different because everybody had their own language, Chinese or Tamil or Malay, but I could only speak English. I had to learn my Malay in school, because in my home, my parents spoke English. I spoke Portuguese to my grandmother, but not very much. And very soon that kind of disappeared because, as my grandmother got older, we stopped using Portuguese in the house. So we all learn. But later in my adult life, I stayed in Indonesia. So now my Bahasa is mixed up with Indonesian because after I went to Indonesia, I actually attended some courses in Indonesia. So now I can't differentiate when I speak Bahasa, whether it's Bahasa Malaysia or Bahasa Indonesia, because I learned formally to communicate in Indonesia actually in Bahasa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pat, for that. You're from Malacca, huh?
Yeah.
You are basically our colonizer,
No, my great grandfathers, not
Okay.
me.
No harm. I mean, past that. So Eddie, where are you from?
Okay, I'm from KL. I'm those very rare, purebred KL native because my parents both sides are also from KL. My grandparents from both sides. Okay, they settled. I think I lost touch with my background. I think they came from China, and then the first place they stay is in KL. So we are, and then I also those very pure breed Cantonese because my parents from both sides, the grandparents from both sides also here came from Canton area. So we are all my breed is dying because now you don't find any pure bred Cantonese or Hokkien or what, we're all mixed up already. So I grew up in KL in the 60s and 70s, and the time KL is a very, very different place. It's a very, not only just a lot of Chinese in KL, very dominated by Chinese, it's also very Cantonese, very Guangdong area. And I went to a Chinese school, but we don't speak Mandarin in the Chinese school. We always speak Cantonese. Okay. So also that's why sometimes when I read Chinese, I read in Cantonese. Okay. What got it even more is that in the 70s we started to have more and more Hong Kong program coming in, movies coming in, and it enhanced the language even more. The things like that. But the thing is that the first part of my life until when I was Sunday school, until my father was a civil servant, a government servant. So he lived in the government quarters, and it's a multiracial quarter. So I grew up with Malay and Chinese around me when I was a kid, and we always play together and things like that. But when I was Sunday school, my father retired, so we have to move out. So we moved to Cheras, which is almost like 100% Chinese, the neighborhood. Actually, it's actually 100% Chinese in the neighborhood. And I was in the Chinese school because I went to a Chinese school because my family, they were all English educated. And I was the only child, I mean, the last one left. And they say, let's send him to a Chinese school. And they asked me whether I want or not. I say, okay. I say, it's okay. So they sent me to a Chinese school so that at least one person who can read or write Chinese. But now my Chinese is just so rusty that I hardly use it.
So you're the youngest, Eddie.
Yes, I'm the youngest.
From how many siblings?
I'm the fifth child.
You're the fifth child, okay, from the fifth one. Okay, thanks, Eddie. Eddie, you are the basically lecturer in the world religions in Inti College, right?
Yes.
Inti University College, okay. Okay, Pat, maybe people want to know what are you doing now in
Well,
your profession?
yeah, as a profession now, I'm a facilitator providing facilitation services to NGOs, corporates, and a lot of it now is virtual, online. In fact, today I just ended a class at 8:30 just now with a group of people from India and Indonesia. Um, so the work hours are a little bit uh, mad because we have to adjust to whichever time zone we are working with. So sometimes classes late at night or very early in the morning. Um, but before I entered into this profession, um, this was in 2008, I became a facilitator, sort of, you know. But before that, I graduated in social science. And my first job, proper job, really, was with the UNHCR Vietnamese Boat People program in Pulau Bidong. That was in 79, you know, after actually just before I graduated. I got the job before I had to leave. I had to take leave to go to for convo in USM. So that was a very eye-opening job, really, because you know, you're just young out of campus, and then you enter the refugee camp first time, and then you meet all these relief workers from all over the world. Because at that time we had America, Australia, Germany, everybody was there helping. This was just after our then Prime Minister said, if you people don't come and help us, we will shoot them. We will shoot them. And that's, I know everybody came to help at that time. So that's how they set up Pulau Bidong. And I was there for, well, I was in the job for about 3 years. The first 2 months, I actually stayed on Pulau Bidong, and there were no staff quarters because Pulau Bidong had 40,000 people, and you know, they had already taken down all the trees, cut the trees off to make their houses. So the only place that was built up was the prefab hospital that Germany brought, you know, kind of those cabins, and then the Red Crescent office. So the first night they told me, you sleep in the office, you know, because no other place, there's no accommodation. The ambulance boys, Red Crescent, were sleeping on the beach. So the choice was sleep on the beach or sleep in the office or sleep in the storeroom. So I chose the office, but
Yeah.
full of rats, the office. Because they were keeping the rice all there.
Pat,
So
after that, you spent 8 years as a volunteer on mission of Good Shepherd, you know?
yes, after that,
So
see,
2 years,
I,
yeah.
I yeah, I met a good shepherd sister working in the camp, and I was drawn to the religious life. So I did go in to see whether this was after I graduated, no? So I went in to see whether religious life was for me. Actually, I thought it was very strange because as a student, I was not that religious, you know. I mean, I was your normal everyday Catholic, go to church on the Sunday, and that was it. But because I was exposed to so much suffering in the camp, and I saw the way the the Good Shepherd sister works, I was attracted to that life. So I went in to stay with them. First, you stay with them, then you see what they do, and then you try whether you can live it. So that whole process took me about 8 years, you know.
Are
Then
you,
later,
Pat, is that when you said that you is a Good Shepherd, are you, during that period, you're becoming a nun, is it?
yes,
Or
yes, I was becoming
during that
well, I was
8 years?
considering to become a religious, yeah, to become a nun. So as I say lah, the process is 1 year you just stay with them, follow their routine. Then 2 years you attend some courses. You know, they will teach you their religious practice. They'll teach you the way of life. Basically, you learn what it is to be a nun, be a sister. You know, and then you have 5 years of temporary vows, because as a religious you vow poverty, chastity, obedience, and zeal. You know, zeal is to work hard for God lah. Yeah. So poverty means you give up ownership of things. Chastity, you promise to live as a single person. yeah, so that you give your life to the work and to God. Poverty, chastity, obedience, you will obey the rule of the house, the rule of that group. And zeal is to work for the salvation of souls. So you practice this for 2 years, and then you do your temporary vows. Every year you renew. So after 5 years, you're supposed to consider whether you want to renew for life. So actually, in my 5th year, I decided to leave. So I spent in total 8 years there. But by the time I left, it was 80. I left in 88. So it's a long time ago.
So why don't you continue? Sorry, just asking.
You see, it is not a easy life because you have to be very clear about why you are there. Because if you are there for some uh, reason that is not very clear to you, you will find it very difficult to follow that life, no? Because every 2 3 years you get moved to a different house, because the work changes, and that is part of the rule lah. You move to help other communities. So imagine if you are living in your family for 3 years, then after 3 years you move to a different house, then after 3 years you move to a different house, different work. So it may work for some, it may not work for others.
Pat, can you you become a nun and then suddenly you said, I cannot take it anymore. Can you stop and meet in the middle of,
Yes.
after you vow, do you want to
Well, you
service for the
vow
rest of your
every
life?
year. You vow every year. So at the point of your renewal, you can decide not to renew.
So the renewal is annually. So,
Yes, annually
okay.
for 5 years.
Oh, so it's like a contract for 5 years. So
Yeah.
you have to
So
see.
imagine if your marriage is like that, every year you decide whether you want to continue or not.
There
Yeah.
is no penalty for breaking the contract, your vow.
No, there is not until you make final vows. After 5 years, you make final vows. If you make final vows and then after that you want to leave, then it's a bit more complicated lah.
I see.
But
What's the penalty? Is
junior,
it the same for the priest?
not really for the priests, because priests take longer in their preparation, so they are supposed to decide anyway. You see, when you are in this religious training, every year you have 8 days of retreat or silence, you know, uh, for you to decide the next course of your journey. So you will decide every year what is your relationship with the calling, with the vocation, as we say, that is, we use the term vocation, your call. So for priests also, they would have to review. But the hope is that before you take your final vows, you are sure what you want to do with yourself. Whether it's the right place for you or not. Because essentially, it is your relationship with God. How do you see your relationship with God? Do you see your relationship lived in this kind of community, or do you see your relationship lived in a different way outside of a religious community? It's not wrong. It's just that we have to discern, we have to think which is the better way for us to live given our personality, our ability to interact with people, how we see our life, and how we live our faith. So for me, I when it came to my turn to decide, I felt I was being very, I felt restricted by the rules of the house, because um, religious community is full of rules. At that time lah, now they are more open.
Okay, just a quick one before we move to Eddie. Okay, for those who are watching live, basically I said we have 3 parts. The first part basically knowing our speakers better, the 2 of them. This is basically their getting to know them, and second, only then we talk about their core teachings and how that core teachings, will somehow solve some of our humanity problem. Okay, sorry, Pat. It's just the last one on you. Sorry, on that your non-experience and whatnot. I think I asked you during the personal conversation.
This is a long story. If you start
I know.
with this story, you can go on
It's just that,
forever.
is there any difference between becoming a nun and becoming a PATRICIA, who are doing so many works, whether you can both can go to the same like, you know, you said that the heaven is only one. There is like Muslim, we have seven
Yes,
degrees
yes,
of heaven, but yours
yes.
is only one. So why should you become a nun? If you become PATRICIA, NUNIS, how many
Well,
works you
I
can also
think
enter heaven, you know?
yes, I can also enter heaven. Um, the thing is, what is your, how are you, what's your best self, you know? Can you find your best, can I find my best self as a religious in that community, or can I find my best self working independently outside, uh, getting in touch with perhaps more people, more different people? If I had lived my life as a nun from the time I started, today I won't be talking on FB on an interfaith panel. My work may be more confined to the concerns of that religious community. Whereas from the time I left, I think my contacts in the society, in the world, broadened because I was not limited by this is the mission of the community, you know. So
But,
some people
but
find,
do you wear like the nun, like the tudong, the small
yes,
one?
I did have for 4 years. I wore that. But you
Okay.
know, it's very funny. After I left, about 4 or 5 years after I left, they started wearing normal clothes. You
Okay.
understand? Because they have changed over time. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying it's partly development of the community itself. Yeah.
thought it was
How?
Pat. Sorry, Pat. I thought it was after 1965, your nuns are already allowed to wear street clothes.
Yes. After 1965, but some communities did not.
Okay.
The IJ communities who were teachers, they switched earlier.
Ah.
The Good Shepherd sisters, because their work was more confined, they wore the habit until, oh, maybe the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, until
Okay,
the
Pat,
80s.
thanks for that. I think we almost
Yeah,
approaching
yeah, yeah,
half an hour. I just
yeah.
a quick one with Eddie. I said if Eddie, you said you were brought as from a traditional Chinese family, then you became a Protestant, you know, when at the age of teenager, and you also studied masters, you know, in theology, in Protestant, is it?
Yeah.
Why the change, and now you become a Catholic
Okay.
from one
I
belief to
grew up.
another?
Yeah, I grew up in a family. I mean, my family, I wouldn't say are religious. My family are very spiritual in many ways. You talk about any spiritual thing, they will believe. So actually, it's not so much problem. If you say you will go to any of my family member and say, "Hey, I saw a ghost last night," they will believe me. The kind of thing, because we generally, the family is a very spiritual person, family. I became a Christian. I would not actually, okay, I became a Christian mainly because I was attracted to Christianity. Um, I felt that there is this very personal relationship that I saw in Christians as well as also on TV. Last time when I was growing up, a lot of American TV program, and many of them are quite religious also. And the way they pray is very different than the way that I grew up. I went to temple with my mother and see how they pray. Then I became a Christian when I was a teenager. But there's a lot of I have a lot of um, struggles and unsatisfactory with a lot of things. A lot of questions is not answered. One of the things. So that is the reason why when I um, grow up, when I went to the US and I finished my first degree, that was a time that I decided I'm going to stay back, and I went to the seminary, the Protestant seminary, to study theology. You see, the Protestant is different from Catholic. It's a Protestant seminary. Anyone can go in, um, apply and go in and study. Then you get a degree. Then you will probably go and apply for a job in a church. Malaysia one, I am not very sure how it functions. I think in Malaysia one probably is a little bit more stricter, where you need to have recommendation by the pastors and things like that. In the US, it's a little bit more loose, not so strict in that sense. But so you have a degree, you go and apply. That's how I went into the seminary. I want to learn more about my own faith, which it helped. It did help me to learn a lot more, and give me a lot of tools that I dare to step outside the box. Okay, instead of asking questions, can I do this? Should I do this? The kind of things because the seminary training has helped me to understand a lot more. And why I became Catholic is because of experience, I would say, spiritual and mystical experience that I had somewhere along. I didn't really seek for it, but it just happened. So of all the different spiritual experience that are going on, like I have experience with the Holy Mother, that is the very crucial part, and then slowly helped me to feel comfortable in the Catholic Church. Then finally, I decided I have been attending the Catholic Church, but never officially joined until my sister's, my grandnephew, my sister's son, who's a Catholic, he has a baby. And then my sister said, hey, you want to be the godfather or not? But they are Catholic. I have to be Catholic to become the godfather. So I say, okay, I officially joined the Catholic Church. So that is how I came into the Catholic Church. That's everything. Okay. Long story.
Hi everyone, terima kasih kerana menonton sampai habis video tadi. Jika awak suka dengan video tadi, boleh tekan tombol like. Kalau awak rasa dia bermanfaat, mungkin boleh sharekan kepada yang lain. Dan kalau awak rasa berminat, mungkin boleh tolong subscribekan sekali, sebab saya insyaAllah akan membuat video seperti ini setiap 2 minggu sekali. Saya ada di Boon Talkshow di FB, YouTube dan juga Instagram. Cuma Instagram ni kurang sikit. Tapi kalau tuan-tuan atau perempuan tak suka, boleh tekan tombol dislike ya. Dan kalau boleh nyatakan juga kenapa tak suka, mungkin dekat situ saya boleh improve. Kalau yang suka tadi pun boleh nyatakan apa yang bagus dan saya akan cuba kekalkan atau tingkatkan lagi. Okey, tujuan saya buat benda ni adalah untuk contribute, untuk menyumbang untuk menjadikan dunia kita lebih baik daripada apa yang ada sekarang. Jadi topik-topik yang saya akan bawakan berunsurkan ilmu yang bermanfaat ataupun sumber-sumber inspirasi ya. Jadi kalau ada apa-apa cadangan topik ataupun speaker, boleh terus message saya sama ada di Facebook ataupun di YouTube. Saya jarang tengok. Kalau ada nombor telefon, tolong message saya terus. Itu saja. Terima kasih daripada saya. I love you 7 billion times. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching.